Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. We're going to finally do the long-awaited, long-announced, long-delayed games sale. This is a multi-purpose sale. Some of the stuff is my stuff that I am unloading to save space. Some of the stuff is stuff from a couple of friends. Some of the stuff is the remains of that estate that fell into my hands. So what you're about to see is a giant, comprehensive, edited review of the conditions of all of this stuff. Now, if you are interested in any of this stuff, please contact me. There's a rule for contacting me on this stuff. It's first come, first serve. That's not the rule. The rule is that you have to email ardwulfslair@gmail.com. This will appear at the bottom of the screen multiple times throughout the video. I will not accept any other way to contact me other than to send me an email. Last time we got super confused because people were sending me tweets on Twitter and messaging me on Facebook and sending me emails and commenting on the videos, and I tried to put it all together and some things got messed up. Thankfully, nothing irreparable. So this time, the only way to get in on any of this action is to send me an email at the email address that is appearing right now. So the other thing is that the prices that I'm going to supply do not include shipping. I am going to rely upon the buyer to pay for shipping. I am going to come as close to an actual shipping estimate as I possibly can. Last time there were some situations where I kind of took a bath on this for big orders. That may happen again. I may also have to buy shipping materials, which I had to do last time. So that may affect some shipping prices as well. But again, I'm going to try and come as close as possible to the actual shipping cost via U.S. Postal Service priority mail. That is the best way, especially for people like in the western side of the United States. It's the best way to get stuff to people for a reasonable price and in a reasonable amount of time. I think my prices are priced to go. There are some things that are fairly collectible in here, so keep an eye on the whole video. It's going to probably be a long video. I will combine shipping, so please contact me and ask about that. Everything's, again, first come, first serve. Okay, so without further ado, let's take a look at the actual stuff. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is some stuff from SPI, starting with Battles for the Ardennes. These are all going to be boxed games for now. There may be some flats and or magazine games in a future sale, but if we're looking for SPI boxed games, and I know that my personal preference for SPI collection is to get the boxed games, that's what we're looking at here today, and there are several to go through. We're going to start with Battles for the Ardennes. This is old Danny Parker classic. This is the quote-unquote Ardennes quad, and it is in very nice shape. There is some box scuffing, but all four corners of the top lid and the bottom box are intact. Inside, the covers of the rule books have been covered in a lamination type of paper, but are otherwise in good shape, and as far as I can tell, not marked in any way. Here is the campaign rules and historical background, which is fairly big. And again, other than the weird choice to put like contact paper on these are in really nice shape. And then we have charts and tables. Here's the errata. Here's charts and tables. These may have been separated from the book at one point, and then we have our four maps, which I believe can be all combined to be a big campaign game. And then we have the very pretty SPI counters. These are in a GMT counter tray, what we call a GMT counter tray today. They are not clipped. I will pull the cover off and show you. You might want to, they're on fairly yellowed, the compartments are labeled on fairly yellowed masking tape, but the counters are otherwise in a really, really nice shape. This is, I would say, a really optimal play copy if you are looking for an SPI play copy of Battles for the Ardennes. And there's some extra stuff that somebody typed up and put in here as well, which look like photocopies of stuff produced on a typewriter. So that's Battles for the Ardennes. The asking price for this one is $50. Next is a really nice piece. This is 4 Battles of Army Group South, the Army Group South quad by 4 different designers, including John Butterfield. Again, we are in a boxed SPI version. There is a corner here that is starting to blow out, but is not blown, but is otherwise major problem free on this box tip. There's another corner that's maybe starting to go. So probably a small, subtle amount of repair is warranted here, but I will leave that to the buyer. All 8 corners are intact, and as you can probably see, this guy is unpunched. On the box bottom, we have some typical weird scuffing on the bottom and a little bit of crunch on one corner, but again, all 4 corners of the box bottom are intact. And here we have the beautiful, intact, unpunched Spi counter sheets. Just gorgeous on here. There's a little bit of discoloration here, and that appears to have crept into the 2 air counters, and I'm not sure what that's about. That may just be like ink smearing, because this is, you know, in the general neighborhood of 50 years old at this point, and even to find this in this kind of shape is uncommon. Let me put it that way. Okay, so that's unpunched. We have Army Group South standard rules, and these look like they were originally from the folio version, as in they're folded in half. And I'm not sure if that came with it. It came like that or not. But then we have the individual exclusive rules for Kiev, Rostov, Operation Star, Corps Sun, and then we have another Army Group South standard rules, charts of tables, historical background. We have an ad for the game in the game, which is amusing. This may actually have been shrink wrapped to the back of the box. That's possible. And then we have our maps at the bottom, and we have 4 individual maps. But otherwise, we have a really nice condition copy, a collector-worthy copy of 4 Battles of Army Group South, and we would like $90 for this item. Next, we have the oddball in the mix, City Fight, Modern Combat in the Urban Environment, designed by Joe Balkowski and Steve the Punk Donaldson, not the Stephen Donaldson who wrote the Thomas Covenant stuff. And this is an oddball thing for a couple things, and I'll show you. You'll notice that it's got a bulgy box. You'll notice, in fact, that this is not the right box. This is, in fact, the standard City Fight box top, which is a 2-inch box, but not the standard City Fight box bottom, which is the 3-inch box bottom. And I think the previous owner had decided that they could get a soapbox game into a 2-inch box, so they cut something down and instead put the extra box bottom in with City Fight. This has 2 sets of counters, and we can see that here. And you can actually see there's 3 Spi Counter Trays. These trays, I got a couple of these for other games, and they're super brittle. These ones are really nice. These have aged really, really well. And like I said, there is 2 sets of counters in City Fight. So, and we have, they're all nicely taken care of, corners rounded and everything. Corners rounded with the Oregon Laminations 2.5-inch corner rounder. Here's the map. Do we have 2 copies of the map? We do have 2 copies of the map. That makes me wonder if I was told there was an extra set of counters. Okay, so there's an extra set of counters and an extra map in here. And the huge rule books, which are a little bit yellowed just due to age, but do not look like they have been seriously gone through this entire time. So other than the oddball situation of, hey, it's not quite in the right box bottom, this thing is in really very nice shape. If you want a play copy of City Fight, this is a very nice one. And our asking price for City Fight is $50. Next up is a true super duper hard to find and extremely collectible SPI game, War of the Ring. Now this is kind of gonna get complicated here. The buddy has a copy of War of the Ring that's nicer than mine. I have a copy of War of the Ring which is complete and in very nice shape inside, but the box is made of poo-poo. So what we're looking at here is box bottom is all 4 corners are intact, and the box bottom is actually quite nice. The box top is pretty beat up. It's got 1 corner that is about to blow, 1 corner that is very thoroughly blown, and 1 side that is blown and was repaired with super brittle tape. If you're interested in a play copy of this game, this is where you go. I started to round the corners on this with an Organ Laminations 2mm counter. It is all here. I have verified that. Mostly the counters are in baggies, which are the relic of my verification of that. This is, despite the condition of the box top, this is a really nice play copy of War of the Ring, and it's actually a super interesting game if you've never played it. Richard Berg was in on the design along with Howard Barish on this, and it's a design that I think holds up pretty well. It's also, I've heard this called the European cover. I don't know if that's accurate. This is the cover from the Ralph Bakshi movie. Our asking price on War of the Ring here is going to be $70. Next up is another SPI box game in very nice shape. This is Star Force Alpha Centauri. This is the designer's edition, which in this case at least means that the map is mounted. This is the design and graphics by Redmond Simonson. And the box, there's some scuffing on the inside. It's a little bit musty, but all four corners of the box top are intact. There is a decent amount of wear. There's no tape or anything like that. We have the pad of movement plotting cards. You do movement plotting in this game. We have the two-piece mounted board. We have the Star Force rules of play, and we have all of the counters in a GMT counter tray. This is also verified that it's all here by me. It's wasn't a huge game, so it's not particularly difficult to verify this guy, but there's a little bit of dishing, but not much. I'd say maybe 2 millimeters of dishing here, just because something got set on it. But otherwise, the box is not amazing, but it's not bad, and it's definitely all intact. And if you're interested in a play copy of Star Force, then this is a pretty nice play copy. And it's a quite interesting game as well. Our asking price for Star Force is $40. Next up from SPI, we have an entrant in the Power Politics series. This is Jim Dunnigan Genius Design. One of the very interesting Jim Dunnigan designs that holds up really well, actually. Russian Civil War. This is also got the mounted map in it, although doesn't say designer series. There is a bit of sun fade on one side. The box is otherwise very nice. Some scuffing, right, but the thing's 50 years old or thereabouts, so pretty close, 45 years old. We've got the two-piece typical SPI mounted board. Not the most gorgeous piece of Redmond Simonson art. And we have a whole bunch of extra. The pieces are in a GMT counter tray here. A lot of times the SPI counter trays that came with these things are just shot after this amount of time. I've had to throw away a couple of them recently. We have a whole bunch of the SPI little D6s. I know that this game did not come with this many of them, but they are included here. So if you're in the mood for massive numbers of SPI tiny D6s, this is a great buy. And it's in great shape. And it is a game, it's a multiplayer game in which it's hard to describe, but describing it is beyond the scope of this video. I don't want to do that, but it's a really interesting design, a really landmark design, and it's a really creative design from Mr. Dunnigan. Our asking price for Russian Civil War in this beautiful box is $50. Next up on the Avalon Hill front, we have a whole bunch of Avalon Hill games in slip cases, including Outdoor Survival. This is from like 1972. Outer slip case is quite scuffed up, but not blown anywhere. Some serious scuffing here, some scuffing almost all the way through right here. The inside box, as you would expect, protected by the slipcase, is in fairly good shape. This is very, very collectible because it sold really well. In part because the very first edition of D&D did not have wilderness rules. It actually told you in the book, go buy a copy of Avalon Hill's Outdoor Survival. So we got the mounted map, which is interesting art style too. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing. It looks like, was this taped together? It totally was taped together. Oof, okay. That's undesirable. And then we have, looks like loose pieces here. I will put these in a baggie for shipping. And then we have this weird Avalon Hill plastic tray that a lot of these early Avalon Hill games showed up in. I had earmarked this to be a little higher, but that's before I saw the fact that the 4 individual board sections are taped together. So we are going to ask for $25 for Outdoor Survival. Next up is another Jim Dunnigan design that was way ahead of its time. This is Origins of World War II. This is Game of International Power Politics. I have this in my collection, and I would like to play it at some point. It is a very interesting looking game. I believe somebody online, possibly Stuka Joe, has done video on this. So the slipcase is really pretty nice. I mean, there's scuffing all around, but I don't see any major damage. Closest thing to major damage is some relatively serious scuffing and a little bit of peeling up here. The inside box, as you'd expect, is in basically really nice shape. Here's your objectives chart, which is kind of the whole game runs on. We have our mounted board, which has been assembled with, at least they used like a fabric tape to put the two board sections together. That's kind of good. The pieces here are loose. I will, again, put these in a Ziploc bag for transportation purposes, and we have all our little booklets that came with this thing. Our asking price for Origins of World War II is $20. Okay, next up is Richtofen's War. This is, again, in the slipcase version. The slipcase itself is, again, as you would expect, reasonably scuffed up. But the inside box is very nice. And then when we look inside, we have the board, once again put together with cloth tape. These all came from a single collection. It's, again, a very interesting sort of watercolor looking art style. Watercolor, very, very overhead view looking art style. These counters are in this sort of plastic tray. I'm going to ship this in a Ziploc bag because I don't think this tray is going to hold up. I'm going to, in fact, take the liberty of just dumping this right now. Everything inside is in quite nice condition. Aircraft status pad looks, maybe they used one or two sheets on here, but otherwise it's completely full. And then, of course, we have the board, which has been assembled. Now, Richtofen's War is not a super duper high-priced collectible. Because it's a friend copy, and I would like to get as much for him as I can, I would like $10 for this very nice condition copy of Richtofen's War. Next, we have a very, very interesting piece, Rise and Decline of the Third Reich. And why is this very interesting? Well, I'm glad you asked. First of all, it's in quite good condition. There is some box wear all around, especially on this corner, and there's some scuffing on the bottom. And you can see when we look at the box bottom that one corner has been repaired. Well, one side has been repaired as well, and one corner has been repaired. So this is not in amazing condition, but it is the first edition, which I personally have never handled a copy of before. Now, it's pretty beat up, right? If you want to copy Third Reich, this might be your baby, because the pieces pretty much don't change between editions. The rules do, and you can download the new rules. This rule book is fairly beat up. This is going to be priced in accordance with its condition and general age. And it's a nice looking map, actually, for its era, right? This is mid 70s. So we have this really interesting first edition Rise and Decline of the Third Reich play copy. Our asking price for this is going to be $10. Next up, we have another Jim Dunnigan design from Avalon Hill. This is France 1940, German Blitzkrieg in the West. Again, in the slipcase. We have some... Of course, the cover's white, so it's going to show soiling a lot. And there's a fair amount, but, you know, it's also pretty much completely solid still. And then the inside box has a little bit of scuffing on it, but nothing major, and a little bit on the corner right there. And then when we go into the box itself, we have the mounted board, which... once again has been sort of assembled with this cloth tape. I'm glad they used the cloth tape. And this is another one where I saw the map, and I'm not sure I've even ever seen the map here. This is a really quite stunningly nice map for when this came out, which was 1972. And again, it's a Dunnigan design, so that by itself, I think, makes it interesting. Pieces are all here as far as I can tell. You've got these little scenario cards, somebody's hand-printed unit list, rules of play, design notes, and campaign analysis. Really interesting early 70s piece from Avalon Hill, and it's especially interesting because James Dunnigan was the designer here. So I think this is worth a look. Our asking price for France 1940 is $25. All right, next up we have a bunch of stuff from Decision Games and or 3W. First up is 4 Battles of the Ancient World. Box here is slightly dished, but otherwise in very nice shape. The inside is unpunched. This is a reasonably well-regarded Decision Games quad that is sort of in the SPI style, but is not a redo of an actual SPI quad. The battles in question are Arbella, Cannae, Pharsalis, and the Teutoburger Wald. So 4 fairly interesting battles here, and I've seen some interest in this series, if a series it can be called. Larry Baggett and Wayland Grace are the designers. We would like $20 for 4 Battles of the Ancient World in very nice shape, unpunched. Next up is rather beat up Napoleon's First Battles. At least the box is fairly beat up. What it looks like is we had some kind of liquid spill that happened on here. It didn't get cleaned up right away, so it tore a big hunk of the box away. However, the inside of the box is pretty much completely intact. There's a bit of a crunch on the box bottom right here where one side has been split as well, which appears to be unrelated. But the counters are unpunched. And somewhat miraculously, there's a tiny bit of musty smell here, but I mean, it's so small that I suspect it may have just been stacked with musty stuff on my side, as long as it's been in my possession, which has been in several months. So our asking price, because of the shape of the box, our asking price for Napoleon's First Battles is only $10. This is Montenot, Arcola, Marengo, and the Battle of the Pyramids. Another fairly interesting SPI-esque, but not SPI, quad from Decision Games. Again, $10 unpunched. Next up is another quad, Empires at War, Great Battles of the 19th Century from Decision Games. 4 battles, Inkerman, Solferino, Konigratz, and Gravelat. Again, these are boxes in reasonably good shape, but not mint. All corners are intact and all that, and this guy is unpunched, and we would like $20 for Empires at War. Next up, in a break from the Decision Game stuff, very briefly, is Table Battles from Hollenspiel. This is a very well-regarded light war game. This is actually my copy. I have never played it, and I've decided that I am not going to. It does contain extra stuff from C3I number 32, so I would like $20 for this basically pristine copy of Table Battles. Next up is an oddball that I bought when I was on the Russian Civil War kick. This is Red Russia from Avalanche Press, a game by William Sarajevo. And this has been punched and clipped with a 3mm corner rounder, but has not been played. I can tell you that because I bought it in the shrink wrap. It is otherwise in pristine condition. I would like $20 for Red Russia. This is actually a fairly interesting looking light game on the subject of the Russian Civil War. Next up from 3W is Chinese Civil War. This is in, again, very nice shape. Box is a bit worn, but the inside is very nice and unpunched. This is a very interesting and undertreated topic in war games. I was actually going to hang on to this until I decided I just really needed the shelf space. I would like $25 for this unpunched copy of Chinese Civil War from 3W, designed by Bob Fowler. Next up from 3W, we have Ancients 1. There's a little bit of what I take to be yellowing on the box. I don't think it came like that, and a little bit of box wear. Inside, it is unpunched and essentially pristine. This is a very interesting looking game because it is what looks like a very simple game system for Ancients. It contains a ton of scenarios, not all of which are actual Ancients battles, some of which are definitely medieval. This is a pretty interesting looking game. I would like $20 for Ancients 1 unpunched. Next up, again from 3W, is Scratch 1 Flat Top, Battle of the Coral Sea. This is a super interesting looking game designed by Peter Bertram. So the box shows some dishing and there's a little split on the bottom, but the inside again is very nice and unpunched, and the maps are actually fairly nice looking as well. This is a really interesting double blind system. I don't know much about it. It looks very intriguing, and if I end up keeping this, well, I've made worse decisions in my life. Again, 50th Anniversary Battle of the Coral Sea, designed by Peter Bertram, Scratch 1 Flat Top, unpunched, beautiful player copy for $25. Next up from Decision Games, we have the Blue and Gray Quad. This is a redo of a classic SPI Blue and Gray Quad. Contains the battles of Shiloh, Bull Run, Cemetery Hill, and Chickamauga. And if we go and look at the inside, we see that it contains the baggies, and woo, it's unpunched. So inside is essentially completely pristine here. If you would like a significant graphical upgrade to your classic SPI quad. Here's your chance. We have some very light scuffing along the edges. There's a little bit of bowing on the box top. That happens, I mean, just sitting on the shelf. Don't ask me why. It is in very nice condition, virtually new. I would like $25 for the blue and gray quad from Decision Games. Next up, we have another Decision Games pseudo SPI quad. This one is called Over the Top: 4 Battles from World War I, and it contains the Brusilov Offensive, Riga, St. Mihiel, and Damascus in 1818. So we look at this thing, and we can see that there's some little bit of box wear, little bit of dishing, not too much. We have paper maps, and counters are unpunched, so pretty much brand new condition here inside the box, and probably 90% brand new condition out on the outside of the box. We would like $25 for Over the Top from Decision Games. Next up is a game that I sold before for probably not enough money, because apparently it's very desirable. I had multiple people ask me for it after the fact. This is The Sun Never Sets, 3 campaigns of the British Empire. The battles here are the games here are March to Peking, Zulu War, and the Sudan. Box is lightly scuffed, not dished visibly at all. This is really close to completely mint here, actually. And then the inside, which I've already looked at, contains the lurid yellow Decision Games die, and the counters are lovely and crisp and unpunched. So we have here an unpunched copy of The Sun Never Sets. Our asking price for this is going to be $30. And our last entry from Decision Games is this guy. This is a bit desirable as well. This is Lords of the Sierra Madre with the 2nd edition rules, which is a sticker on the box. We have some very minor box scuffing and a little bit of sun fade, it looks like, to set on a game store shelf or something like that. Inside, the cards have been collected in rubber bands, but otherwise there's no evidence that this has been attempted to get played whatsoever. The interior components are mint, fresh, and unpunched. So, and I know that there are some people that really, really like this game. There are also some people who bounced off of it fairly hard in the wargaming community, but I know that it's a fairly desirable game. Our asking price for Lords of the Sierra Madre in this really nice condition, 2nd edition copy, is $40. All right, next up is our list of stuff from Multiman Publishing and the Gamers. We're going to start with the Operational Combat series. These are extra copies that are copies of a buddy of mine's that I am unloading for him. We have the Blitzkrieg Legend. This is France 1940, designed by Hans Kischel. This is punched, not clipped, and actually the unit counters are punched. The marker sheets are not punched, so bear that in mind. This is other than being punched, this is in essentially mint condition. I am positive this has never been played. Our asking price for Blitzkrieg Legend is $50. Next up is our other OCS title, Beyond the Rhine, Northwest Europe, 1944 to 45. This again is punched. In this case, we have the marker sheets punched, and but again, I'm reasonably certain this was not actually played. Our asking price for Beyond the Rhine, a box condition, is pretty much new. I mean, super duper minor shelfware, if I had to say. Our asking price for Beyond the Rhine is also $50. Next up is a really, really, really collectible, desirable, and out of print thing, and that's why the price is what it is. This is Last Chance for Victory. This is the sort of Gettysburg magnum opus. This is a magnificent game, and I think the definitive package, certainly, on the Battle of Gettysburg. The number of scenarios in here is enormous. The play quality is really high. The component quality is very high. It is punched, and the markers are in a tray. The counters are in little Ziploc bags. Only because it is punched, it is going for the low price of $120. You will find that this goes unpunched for at least double that. We will circle back around to this if it doesn't go at that price, but to be completely honest, I expect it to go at the $120 price for Last Chance for Victory. Box condition, very, very minor scuffing. Otherwise, if you're looking for a play copy of this, and I would encourage you to play this, it's a really neat game. here's your copy. Next up, we have from the Gamers, Dean Essig, and the Tactical Combat Series, number 7 in that series by Dave Friedrichs. This is Black Wednesday. This is Krasny Bor in the Spanish Blue Division. This bad boy contains a counter tray for some reason, but is otherwise unpunched, and is my only thing in the Tactical Combat Series at this point. So I would like to unload it. It is some minor box wear, a little bit of scuffing on the bottom. Otherwise, it's completely a cherry copy of Black Wednesday. We would like $20 for it. And then last from the Gamers and Multi-Man Publishing, we have the Mighty Endeavor. This is a standard combat series game on the war in Europe from 1944, basically from D-Day to the end of the war. It is a punched, counters rounded with a 2mm corner rounder. It is complete. I have verified that. This is a very nice game. I only want $20 for this. It is absolutely worth twice that in play value. This is a game I can see. I personally have played 3 or 4 times now, and I can easily see getting a lot of play value out of this. So $20 for the Mighty Endeavor. Okay, miscellaneous publisher, Odds and Ends. This is actually from the Gamers and or Multi-Man Publishing, and I didn't include it in that. This is Circus Minimus. This is a new look at the sort of classic Circus Maximus gameplay designed by Dean Essig. It is a very highly regarded game. It is super duper out of print. Originally, it was only like $20. I think we're going to ask for $15 for a partially punched in the Ziploc, which is how it came, Circus Minimus. Next up from Against the Odds magazine is Suleiman the Magnificent. This is punched and in the execrable Against the Odds counter tray, which is the worst packaging in the history of wargaming. It is a Richard Berg design. We want like $10 for Suleiman the Magnificent. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but it is a fairly nice looking game. From Command Magazine, we have Inchon. This is Command Magazine number 9. This is the game Inchon. The game is unpunched. We would like $10 for it. I think that's a good price. It's unpunched. The counters that have been punched are the errata counters for other Command Magazine games. So we don't have those, but we do have all of the Inchon counters and stuff and map it, and it's all in here unpunched. Again, we would like $10. All right, next up from FASA, we have Circus Imperium. This is part of their Renegade Legion line. Another thing I don't know too much about, but it's basically Circus Maximus with alien lions and stuff. And it's... I don't know if unpunched is the word I would use. I mean, there are cards, a couple of which have sort of fallen out of the sheet, but most of which are still in the sheet. And then there's these tokens, which I take it you're supposed to cut out and assemble these little buildings and stuff. I don't have a solid appraisal on what this is worth, so I am going to call it $20, and we'll see if it goes at that price, and if it doesn't go, we will revisit it at a later time. Next up from FASA also is a game I'm a little bit more familiar with, Succession Wars. This is the sort of strategic level game of Battletech where you actually like fight out the strategic level campaigns in for the Inner Sphere, and it's actually a fairly neat looking game. It was a game I was super interested in back in the day when I was into Battletech. Box has seen better days. It is scuffed up. It has one blown corner, which could probably be repaired relatively easily, but as far as I can tell, it is all here. I don't think this is a super valuable collectible, but it's not worth nothing either. So I'm going to say, again, we're going to say $25 for this perfectly viable player's copy of the Succession Wars. Now here's something, I don't know if anybody's interested in this or not, so I'm going to do it fairly quickly. This is Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine game from Mayfair Games. This was released in the 80s. It was clearly not played. It comes with the sort of Mayfair Games plastic pawns and Mayfair Games puzzle style board, which is a type of board that tends to not hold up fairly well, but these look like they have held up fairly well. And it's double-sided too. This is another one, not really my thing. Not an Ellery Queen fan, not a Mayfair Games board game fan particularly, although they did some good ones that I do like. And I don't know a lot, and not a mysteries guy either, so I don't know a whole lot about this thing. We are going to call this $25, and if it goes great, it's in really nice shape, actually. All the corners are intact. There's some relatively minor box wear. So if this is interesting at all, I think $25 is a reasonable price. So let's move on. Next up is another oddball from OSG, believe it or not, Rommel and Tunisia. This is designer J.A. Nelson, whoever that is. And I have heard of this game, but have no personal direct knowledge of it. It's very well taken care of. The previous owner had made these custom boxes for the counters, and they're all in those. I'm not going to touch that. We have a map. Obviously, it's punched. We have some typewriter written extra notes and stuff. We have a study folder, which looks really nice. Campaign narrative by B.H. Liddell Hart. They must have gotten that from History of the Second World War. They did. And then here's an ad for other OSG stuff. Here's a I'm reasonably sure this did not come in the game. Rommel and Tunisia. You'll notice that the terrain here is a bit lush looking for Tunisia, but there you have it. And it's on sort of a nicer than usual textured paper. I'm reasonably sure that this copy of Wargame Design did not come with this game. For all I know, this thing's worth more than the game. But this is an OSG thing, and I might want to read this before I send this off. And I'm not, again, really super familiar with this. The box is a bit banged up. It's noticeably dished. It looks like it got a little damp, but not wet. But all corners are intact, and it's not in such bad shape. I'm going to say $25 for Rommel in Tunisia without really knowing what I'm talking about. Next up is another somewhat outside the wargaming space thing, Go. This is a copy of Go by a company called Spqr in Santa Barbara, California. And is pretty much a copy of Go with reasonably nice, feels like plastic pieces in old school sandwich bags. I'm going to ask $10 for this copy of the game of Go by Spqr. Certainly it's worth that. It looks like a completely viable copy of Go if you're into Go. We are now going to work toward the final crescendo of the video, in which we deal with the last handful of games. First among them is Red Storm from GMT. This was released in 2019. This is my copy. It is mint, out of the shrink wrap, but otherwise completely untouched. It is unpunched. It's still got the baggies in it. I have decided that I am simply not going to play this again. Actually, that's not true. I might play it again because I have a couple of friends that have it. I think it's an interesting game. And yet I don't need it on my shelf because I need to clear this space. I would like $50 for this otherwise pristine copy of Red Storm. Basically brand new. You'll save $30 or $40 on it. Not currently in print, Samurai. This is part of the Great Battles of History series, and I believe this to be the first version of Samurai. I don't believe there are significant differences between the two versions. What we have here is a box with some rather light shelfware, but very light. Little bit of discoloration here on the white box. This is why I'd never use a white box if I was a publisher. Inside we have an unpunched copy of Samurai. This was my copy. This is an extra copy. I am not extracting myself from the Great Battles of History series. It is one of my favorite series, and some people really, really like these Japanese games that they've done. This has some interesting battles that I am not going to attempt to mutilate the pronunciation, but it does contain the decisive Battle of Sekigahara in it. Very desirable, and frankly, I think I could probably get more than $40 for this, but my asking price, because I need to clear the shelf space, priced to Go, my asking price is $40 for a very nice condition copy of Samurai in the Great Battles of History series. Next in the Great Battles of History series is kind of the centerpiece of the modern series because it's in print. This is Richard Berg and Mark Herman's Spqr Deluxe Edition. Now, the thing with this is the Deluxe Edition contained all of the expansions except for Barbarian. This is my extra copy, which does include Barbarian. When there's Barbarian. It also includes, I'm not sure if this came with it or not, but it's in here, Player's Guide to Spqr. There is an enormous quantity of material in here and a huge play value in this box. Last time I sold one of these, it was like the first thing to go. It went within seconds. I am going to say I would like $60 for Spqr Deluxe with Barbarian in my from the personal collection of Ardwulf. It is in very nice shape, and I will vouch for its excellence as a game as well. This is one of my favorite series, and it is totally worth your while. Okay, last item from GMT is No Retreat, the Russian Front. This is a game that is very highly regarded. It is punched. The cards are in a baggie. This is my copy. I have tried to play this a couple times, and I've kind of bounced off of it, but nevertheless, a lot of people regard this game and its series very highly, and this is the main centerpiece game of the series, the most highly regarded one, No Retreat, the Russian Front. This is the second printing from GMT. They may be on a third printing now, so if you have a concern about the updated cards, this should have the updated cards in it. I would like $40 for No Retreat, the Russian Front, in essentially, other than it's punched, otherwise it's in absolutely as new condition. We have one title from Victory Games, and it is the Peloponnesian War. This box is significantly soiled and scuffed, and the front has this sort of thing peeled off of it, which suggests to me that in this case it looks like some knucklehead put tape on it at some point and peeled it off, and it didn't go well. However, inside the box, everything is unpunched and gorgeous. And this is a really interesting Mark Herman classic design that is so worth your time that GMT has reprinted it. Bearing in mind that there is a new edition available from GMT and that the box is scuffed up, I'm only asking $20 for this. If you want to complete a Victory Games play collection, that is a good price for this. So $20 for the Peloponnesian War unpunched. My favorite game series in the war game space is probably Great Campaigns, the American Civil War. And we have two of them here at the end. One is Stonewall in the Valley. This is Jackson's Valley campaign. This is a gorgeous game. It is complete. It is meticulously taken care of. Box has some minor shelf wear, but is otherwise absolutely intact. It is punched, but not clipped or anything. Somebody has, I might as well mention this, in order to make the maps overlap each other, you kind of have to cut along the hex edges, so that's been done here. This is a 3-map game. It's the biggest campaign in terms of map space in the entire series. It's a wonderful game series. This is a wonderful entry in that series. It is absolutely worth a ton in terms of play value, and I think I'm asking $50 for it, which I think is a completely reasonable price. It is obviously long out of print. Doesn't look like it's going to get reprinted anytime soon from Multiman, so now's your chance to get Stonewall. And the value, again, $50, punched and very well cared for, is Here Come the Rebels. This is the Antietam campaign for Great Campaigns, the American Civil War, and we have a super tiny bit of dish right here, but it's also in the original shrink wrap, with a little bit peeling in the back, and a little dust bunny that has gotten underneath the shrink wrap in the back. So original shrink wrap, Here Come the Rebels. Now, the new version of this is available in Roads to Gettysburg 2, but if you are trying to put together a collection, particularly a collector collection, right? Here's a copy of Here Come the Rebels in the shrink wrap. I would like $60 for this. I am not divesting myself of Great Campaigns, the American Civil War by any means. These are extra copies. $60 for Here Come the Rebels in the original shrink wrap. Last and certainly least, to honor the Origins auctions of years past, we have Cretchfield by Avalon Hill. This is in the slipcase. The slipcase, as before, the slipcase is a bit scuffy, but the box inside is quite nice. As you can imagine, this is probably not seen a lot of play, considering that it is a nigh legendary turd. But we have the battle manual, the game instructions. You can see the rules on this thing. The story is that this thing was designed by Tom Shaw in about 15 minutes. Which I can certainly believe. If you are expecting a version even vaguely like the 1800s von Reiswitz Kriegspiel, this is not your guy. The pieces are loose here, but I'm going to put them in a baggie. Kriegspiel is interesting and collectible, but not a particularly good game. The Avalon Hill Kriegspiel, that is. Our asking price on this bad boy is going to be $10. Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for watching what is going to turn out to be, after editing, a really, really long video. Again, the address to contact me, which is the only valid way to ask for any of these products, has appeared at the bottom of the screen, ardwulfslair@gmail.com. So please email me if you are interested in any of these games. It would also be super helpful if you would put something like game sale in the subject line of your correspondence. I would like to thank you for watching. Please stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. There is probably going to be a Wave 4 sale happening at some point, but that is quite a ways away. If we can get rid of all this stuff, I will have cleared the necessary space to get additional stuff from my buddy. In the meantime, I need to clear this space because I need the working room, as you can see from the giant pile of crap behind me. Again, I'd like to thank you for watching, and until next time, happy wargaming.